Okay, it's 7:30, so I want to greet everybody here. I want to say hello or good evening. It is really a very special time of the year. We all are standing on the threshold between the old year and the new year. In just a few more days on Friday evening, we'll be ushering in the holidays and we'll be lighting the candles, the mother and the daughters, and we will be looking forward for the new year. At this time, it is a very precautious time because on Rosh Hashanah morning, the morning in the daytime is the time that God is being officially crowned to be the king of the world. And between Friday night and the morning, the life is very shaky because are we going to crown God or aren't we? And it's our deeds and what we do that counts. And in the morning, when we crown the God with blowing of the shofar, it's officially the yearning in of a new year. So let's start from the beginning. And Friday evening, we'll be lighting the candles and we'll be setting the tables with our wine and a cup to make Kiddush. But what are we going to put on the table? What are we going to eat? You know, the third Rebbe of Chabad said, Tracht gut, wird sein gut. For those whose Yiddish is a little bit rusty, I will translate. If you will think happy, if you think well, things will be well. And that's what it is. So when we look into the new year, we're going to wear our rosy glasses and we're going to hope and wish and know that the year will be much better. There's a very famous saying, it says, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. You should serve God with joy, because a place where joy could reach, no tears could reach, no crying could reach. Joy is an acceptable way of serving God, being with our friends. You know, you cry alone. You're happy, everyone's happy with you. The Jewish nation is a very symbolic nation. We always look for the good in things, and we want to remind ourselves what kind of good we want and what we don't want. So Rosh Hashanah, since it's the beginning of the year, we have many customs of our food. There's Ashkenazi customs, there's Sephardi customs. I would just like to touch upon some that are universal and maybe perhaps some that are distinct to different groups. So we start with our challah, and it's universally known that most people make a round challah for Rosh Hashanah. It could be this shape or that shape, some make a circle, but the reason it's round is because we want it to be a whole roundness of goodness with no nicks or cuts or any kind of other ways. We want it to be a very, very happy round goat year. And of course, what is sweeter than honey? Therefore, we have the custom of having honey, and we dip the apple in the honey the first night. So let's see what else I'm going to serve the first night. I'm even going to give you a hint what I'm going to serve the second night. The first night, we're going to have something special. My kids like it, my grandchildren do, and that is honey butter with cinnamon on it. Now, I use the margarine that is plant-based, and it's semi-healthy, and the kids really like it. So between the honey and the honey margarine and the challah, they really have a feast. Now, it is also very customary to eat pomegranates, but I'm going to leave my friend to talk about that. But there is something the Sephardi people eat, and that is called, does anyone know what it is? Could you guess? It's kariti. It is, anyone know what it is? One more hint. It's a leek. A leek in Hebrew or in Sephardic Hebrew is karti. It comes from the root karas, to cut. And we ask God to cut away anything that's not good. And we should have only good things, and all the bad, and we should be cut away. And then there's something else that I have at my table, but this I am saving for the second night. Anyone know what that is? We're going to put all the recipes on the chat as we speak. So I will tell you, this is fig jam. Why did I choose to make fig jam? This is how the figs looked before I cooked them. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, we celebrate here in Mequon, New York, Canada, or Israel for 2 days. But in reality, in the Torah, it's 1 day. So is it 1 day or 2 days? You know what happens with the rabbis. If you ask a question, they'll ask you another question. Is it 1 day or 2 days? There is a law that on the first day of a holiday, we say a special blessing when we light the candles or when we make the kiddush. It's called the blessing of Shehecheyanu, that we've come to this day and this beautiful occasion. But we only say it if it's a whole day. Now the second day, is it a new day or not? Should we say the blessing of Shehecheyanu or should we not? So the rabbis always come up with an idea. They said, you know what? We'll make the blessing on something else. And in our mind, we will also think if it's 1 day, then we're making the blessing only on the new thing we're going to eat. If it's 2 days, we'll have in our mind on both. So I haven't had any figs this whole year since the new crop. So on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, before I light the candles, I will put these figs on the table. And as much as I wanted to taste this jam, I couldn't because I'm savoring it for Saturday night, the second day, night of Rosh Hashanah. So when I'm going to make a blessing on the candles, I will have in mind my fruit. And when I eat the fruit, I will only make the bracha ha'etz. I will not make the bracha shehecheyanu. The same thing with the men when they make kiddush. When they make kiddush, they will say shehecheyanu, but they will not make shehecheyanu again for the kiddush or they make it on the kiddush, but not on the fruit. You could have as many new fruits as you like. Whatever you could find in the store, you're welcome to have, and you only make shehecheyanu once. So I would now like to ask my friend, my coworker, our newest member in Chabad, Mushka Lisker, to continue. And I'll be back shortly.
Hi, thank you so much. Hello, everybody. My name is Mushka, and as Rebbetzin said, some of you I have met, some of you I have not yet met, unfortunately, due to the current situation, but it's nice to see you and meet you on Zoom. And after that beautiful introduction, I will continue on and show you one of my favorite salads that I make for Rosh Hashanah. So before I begin, I will let you know why this is my special Rosh Hashanah salad. So one of the foods that we eat on Rosh Hashanah, very popularly known, is a pomegranate. Why pomegranate? And that's one of the more universally done minhagim. So a pomegranate has inside it many, many, many seeds. And the Talmud says that even those people amongst the Jewish people who are empty are actually really full of mitzvahs, just like a pomegranate is full of seeds. So we are compared to being full of seeds like a pomegranate, even those of us who are empty and like sinners. So that seems a little bit like, contradictory. The sinners of us are full of seeds and merits like pomegranates. But obviously we're trying to show Hashem, and the reason why we do all of these special signs and simanim on Rosh Hashanah is to put ourselves in the best light and remind Hashem, these are all the good things that we have inside of us. So we're all full of many, many good merits and good deeds like a pomegranate. And just a story to illustrate this point is that someone once came to the Rebbetzin Rebbe and said to him, I have a question about this statement of the Talmud, because it says that even the sinners of Israel are full of merits like a pomegranate. So if someone is a sinner, how can they be full of mitzvahs? How can they be full of good merits? And the Rebbe answered this person with tears in his eyes and said, I also have this question, but I have this question the other way around. If someone is so full of mitzvahs, how can they be called a sinner? So on Rosh Hashanah, we are taking upon ourselves the good attitude, seeing things in the good light, which is the way that the Rebbe always saw things with positivity. And we're showing Hashem that we're all full of juicy, beautiful, sweet pomegranate seeds. And I bless us all that we this year should find within ourselves the pomegranate seeds. So I'll just show quickly how I assemble this salad. Hope you can see. So I have a green base. So right here I have arugula. You can use kale or spinach. I've done both of those in the past. I have some beets, some boiled beets, just cubed. And the reason why I use beets is because Sephardi custom for Rosh Hashanah, one of the simanim is to eat beets, because beets in Hebrew is called selek, which means to depart. So we ask Hashem that all of our enemies and haters should depart from amongst us. So that's another siman for Rosh Hashanah. And then I like to put some thinly sliced red onion, spread around, and some avocado, because avocado makes everything taste good. And then lastly, obviously, we're highlighting pomegranates, which make it bright and pretty, and together with the beets. And there are so many other things also that you can add to the salad. I feel like you can't go wrong. Sometimes I add sweet potatoes, sometimes I'll fill with sliced apples or pears, depending on what's seasonal. And to dress it, I use some olive oil and a little bit of mustard. I use lime because many people have a custom to not use vinegar on Rosh Hashanah. Not wine, lime, yes. So I use lime juice as my acid for the dressing, and a squeeze of honey and some salt. And then I pour it all together and I give it a nice whisk. And I pour it over when I'm ready to serve. So that is my simanim salad. I hope you enjoy. And I would like to introduce next Sheina Luchins, who is a very well-known cook around here because she is the co-founder of the Jewish Food Festival. So many of you have tasted her delicious recipes. And if you haven't, you are now very lucky to learn from the master herself, Sheina.
Sorry. All right. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mushka. That was quite the introduction. As many of you on this group know, the food festival doesn't happen by itself, so it's not all me cooking. Everyone here, I think, has helped at some point, so it's a community effort. But yeah, we love sharing our good recipes with everybody. So the thing that we are going to be making now is a salmon dish in honor of Rosh Hashanah. As everybody knows, one of the symbols of Rosh Hashanah is a fish. Specifically a fish head we have on our table by the meals. And the famous expression that goes with it is that our year should be like the head and not the tail. So that's why we have a fish head and also a lot of other fish dishes as well. So I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on the meaning behind that. Similar to what Mushka was saying about the pomegranate, it's about finding your inner, as she was saying, your inner pomegranate. So I was just thinking about it today about the fish head, and it's about finding it within ourselves, the power of the fish head. So what is it? The power is that it should be the head of the year. And the head is like the top, the strong. And so I was thinking, especially now, it applies to today, as we're normally used to going to shul every week and hearing our community and hearing the inspiration on a more personal, in-person basis. And nowadays we're stuck at home. A lot of the inspiration, obviously, Baruch Hashem, for Zoom and all these phone calls and everything, but there still is a lot of being at home and kind of inspiring ourselves. And so I was thinking that the head of the fish, our head of the year, is going to be how we're going to be leading the year and how we're going to be self-leaders with our homes, whether we're in a situation out of our homes that we need to take charge, be the leader, and do the right thing, or like I said, we're all home now, and whether we're the leaders of our family or not, it's time to be that head for ourselves, for others, just to be that motivation and, you know, start the new year on the head, on the right track, on the leading, powerful side, and not, God forbid, the tail of the fish. So we are going to be making salmon. It's a really easy recipe. I came upon it when I was planning my Rosh Hashanah menu. So there's like not much to even show you guys because it's that easy. It is 2 ingredients, pomegranate juice and maple syrup. So the recipe that I found had sugar, but I substituted for maple syrup. It's a bit healthier and I like the maple flavor. So what I did was I did 4 cups of the pom juice, like those giant bottles of pomegranate juice. I simmered it with maple syrup for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and it made this kind of glaze, which I'll pour over in a minute. And so it was just the 2 ingredients, super simple. The salmon I made, however you regularly make salmon, that's how you can make it. For this recipe, I just did salt and pepper, a little bit of olive oil, and done 400 for around 20 minutes. And so all we're gonna do is just pour the glaze over the salmon. I would say you can add whatever you'd like to this. I would add maybe rosemary next time. I love the scent of rosemary, so I'm just gonna pour it on, and it's a beautiful deep color, as you can see. And just to be in the Rosh Hashanah spirit, we're gonna add pomegranate seeds as well. I know Mushka just spoke about pomegranate. I'm just gonna put those pomegranate seeds, and it's just a beautiful, artful looking dish, very deep red, beautiful color. And the sauce tastes amazing, and it's just 2 ingredients. So I'll be posting the recipe soon, but it's super simple. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And I'm gonna pass it on to Rebbetzin Rapoport to continue showing us some delicious more recipes.
About lighting candles Friday night. And Rosh Hashanah this year is Friday night and Shabbos, and then Saturday night and Sunday. So we have some laws that we have to be aware of yet before the holiday comes in. One of them is that on a holiday, we cannot start a new light. We could take one light from the other light, but we can't start a new light. So the second night of Rosh Hashanah, we're gonna light the candles like we mentioned before. But where are we gonna take a light from? We cannot strike a match, or we could take a light from a different source. So we told you the rabbis are smart. They came up with an idea. This candle would last about 25 hours. They say 24, but they don't want us to sue them, so they make it for 25. So before we light the Shabbat candles, we will light this 24-hour candle. So when Shabbat ends, and we have to light the next candles for the next day of Yom Tov of the holidays, we could take it from this source. And then we will put on the table my figs and my jam for my figs and all the other fruit. I did not tell you what is in here. It's just very simple: red onion, figs, and my favorite, pomegranate concentrate. So what else am I going to serve? So I'll probably serve the fish that Sheina made. I'll probably serve the salad that Mushka made. And then I will serve some soup. This is the soup that I'm going to serve. Okay. Can I lift it up? Can you see me? That's the soup. And this soup is a carrot soup. Why did I choose to make a carrot soup? Again, we'll go back to my language when I was a child, Yiddish. Carrots in Yiddish is meron. Meron means more. We want more things to happen. What kind of things do you want to happen more? Of course, more good deeds, more blessings from God, more good news, more celebrations, more simchas, and more good health. So, in the spirit of Rosh Hashanah, I chose to garnish it with the pomegranate seeds that Mushka spoke about, and about the apple that Sheina will share soon. Another dish that I can make, and that I would do, is my favorite carrots. And they're so simple. Everything I make for Rosh Hashanah or for any meal, I try to not work hard, but work smart. So most of these things just have a few ingredients. Same with the carrots. If you go to Trader Joe's, you plug for them, you buy the multicolored rainbow carrots, you cut them in half, saute them with a little bit of olive oil, and then you add the thyme sprigs and a little bit of honey, salt, and any spice you like, and voila, there we are. So I'd like to talk about something else a little bit more, and that is what happens in shul. So the first day of Rosh Hashanah, being a Shabbat, we do not blow the shofar, and we do not go to Tashlich. What's Tashlich? Tashlich means to send away. So since we are so symbolic, what are we going to send away? You guessed it, you're right, you knew it. I didn't have to tell you. We're going to get rid of all the bad deeds that we ever had before, all the bad thoughts we had before, all the bad ideas we had before. We're symbolically going to go to a running water, and just shake our clothes and say a prayer, maybe do a dance, maybe blow the shofar for the people there who haven't heard it, and we're going to celebrate that now we are pure and clean and ready to accept a wonderful new year. However, on Shabbat, we do not carry. So we cannot do it the first days of the holidays, but instead, we're going to do it the second day. For those of you who walk and live in walking distance of CFJL, Chabad of Mequon, we have made a man-made running pool of water. If you come Sunday morning to Chabad, you will see the fishes swimming, and you'll see us celebrate with, you can bring your neighbors, your friends, your family. We'd love to have you. That's one thing we're gonna do on the second day of Yom Tov instead of the first. And the other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna blow the shofar. We couldn't blow it the first day, so the second day we're gonna blow the shofar. And again, if there's anyone who cannot come to the synagogue, we will have stations around the different areas to service to help you be able to listen to the shofar, or we will come to your house if we can. So if any of you cannot come to the synagogue and would like to hear the shofar, please contact our office and we will make it possible with all our best you should be able to have the shofar. And now, since we are up to that part, I'm going to again go back to Mushka. Mushka, we're getting a little hungry. We just had appetizers. We had the salad, the fish, the soup, the side, and what do we have now?
So now we have a main. So what I prepared for you is parsnip puree with roasted London broil with a special Rosh Hashanah garnish. So I'll explain to you first the parsnip puree. So it looks like this. You prepare it just like you would prepare mashed potatoes, peeled parsnips. I cut them up into smaller pieces because it's a very tough root. So that way it takes quicker to cook, and boil it in water. And then I drain it and I puree it with a hand blender, immersion blender, or you can use like a regular blender, whatever you would use to really make it a fine puree. Add a little bit of salt. You can add a little bit of garlic, whatever you like. But what I like about the pasta puree is that unlike potatoes, it's a little bit sweeter, so you've got that Rosh Hashanah influence in what you're eating. And then I've also made this London broil. So you can really do this with any cut of meat. I personally used to make this dish specifically in Australia with lamb, because lamb is very plentiful there and because it's delicious. But here I use London broil. And the point is, the way I enjoy this dish is for the meat to be very soft. So there are many different ways that you can cook a roast or a London broil. So you might want to choose like a softer cut, like a second cut brisket, but you can really make this with whatever you have. So what I put on the meat is I sprinkled just spices. So I personally did I didn't want there to be any really overpowering taste. So I just did salt, pepper, and garlic. And then I mixed together some white wine and honey, a lot of honey, because this is a Rosh Hashanah dish, a little bit of oil, and I poured it all over the meat in this pan. And then what I did was I sauteed a lot of onions. So I don't know amounts. I mean, I did some little onions, so I did about 5, but you could do 2 big onions. And what I did was I really covered the whole piece of meat. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted it to keep all the moisture in and stay really, really soft. And I cooked it for about 5 hours on 250. So now it's really soft, and I will plate it for you, and you can see the intention. So you can see the meat's like pulling apart, and that's kind of what you want. So if you use a softer cut of meat, you'll get that effect cooking it, for shorter. But so it's going to test my plating skills. Put a little bit of the puree and some of the soft meat, a little bit of onions, however you like. And then the real clincher for this dish, and what really brings it all together in the Rosh Hashanah spirit, is this parsley pomegranate little dressing. So I have here just finely chopped fresh parsley in a little bit of lime juice and olive oil and salt. And I'm going to just add some fresh pomegranate seeds and mix it together. Now, if I was making this not on Rosh Hashanah, I would add some chopped pistachios. But there's also a minhag on Rosh Hashanah not to eat any nuts, because nuts have the same gematria, same numerical value as the word chet, which means sin. So we don't want to remind Hashem about any of our sins on Rosh Hashanah. So I left out the nuts, but this is still like a yummy, fresh dressing that kind of cuts through the heaviness of meat and the earthiness of the parsnip. And that is my Rosh Hashanah main. And it's very versatile. Any kind of meat, parsnip, you could do potato, you could do squash, you could do sweet potato. But this is something that I enjoy. Somebody asked if I cover it the whole time I'm cooking. Yes, I cover the meat with foil really, really tightly, because you want to keep all that moisture in, so you have that delicious gravy and that juice afterwards. And that really keeps the meat from drying out. Specifically, if you're doing a London broil like I did, because it's not an as soft cut. But I'd recommend any cut really to just keep it closed. And it came out exactly like this. I pulled it out of the oven 10 minutes ago. I didn't do anything to it, and it pulled apart like that. And I hope you enjoy, and if you try and make it, please let me know. And so now that we've finished our main, we are going to hear a dessert from Sheina.
Thank you, Mushka. That looked amazing. So yummy. So now for our grand finale, we're going to be doing a dessert. I think the one thing we haven't mentioned yet is apples. So we're going to be making an apple crumb cake. This is an apple crumb cake with extra crumbs, extra cinnamon, extra sugar, just like we like our desserts. But before we put it all together, I just wanted to touch upon the apples, because I feel like, everybody knows apples are the symbol of Rosh Hashanah. I feel like it's one of the most well-known things when you think of Rosh Hashanah, or even if we're in a random store, the paper goods have like an apple and honey on it. It's just, that picture of Rosh Hashanah. And so I always wondered, why apples? We always hear that we have honey and apples for a sweet new year. And besides that, apples go with honey. If you think about it, like, apples are not the sweetest fruit. As a kid, I always thought about that whenever we were taught it in school. You know, there's a lot of fruits that are sweeter than apples: mangoes, strawberries, you know, berries, anything that has that like sweet flavor. And apples are more of like a lighter sweetness. So I was looking it up recently, and something really interesting that I learned is that apples actually are compared to Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, famous, you know, first story in the whole Torah, takes place in the Garden of Eden. And the garden smelled like an apple orchard. Our sages say that that's what the beautiful sweet smell was. And it says it in a bunch of different places it's mentioned. Famously, in one of the most famous stories that we know about with Yitzchak and Yaakov, our forefather Isaac and Jacob. Yitzchak was, as we know, on his deathbed, and his sons were taking care of him. And everybody knows Esav, the famous evil twin, who would hunt in the field all day, kill animals. He never really learned. He never really did anything, any good mitzvahs or anything. The only thing he would do is take care of his father. And we know in the famous story, Yitzchak was on his deathbed, and he wanted to give a beautiful blessing to his eldest son. And as we know, Yaakov, the younger son, who would learn Torah all day and was an amazing, kind person, he actually bought the firstborn rights from his brother. So he felt that when his father was supposed to give the blessing, it should go to him, especially because it was about rebuilding the Jewish nation and being fruitful, and it was a whole beautiful blessing. And, you know, Yaakov wanted it not to go to his brother, who knows what would happen to the Jewish nation the way he was. So he wanted to get the blessing and felt that it was rightfully his. As we know from the famous story, Yaakov dresses up like his brother, goes in and receives the blessing. And in the verse, when it talks about Yaakov coming in, Yitzchak says, oh, it smells like a field, the field that Hashem blessed. So if you read the Torah and you just read that at face value, it says, oh, it smells like a field. And so you would assume that Yitzchak thought, hey, it smells like my son Esav, who is in the field all day hunting animals, who normally comes to visit me at this time. But we look into Rashi, one of the famous commentators on the Torah, and Rashi actually explains there that Yitzchak meant the field of apples. And Yitzchak was saying it smelled like an orchard of apples. It smelled like Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. And so that day when, you know, he thought it was Esav, but it was really Yaakov, came in, Yitzchak knew something was off because it smelled so beautiful and like those beautiful apples. So why apples in Rosh Hashanah? It's mentioned many times in the Torah as the beautiful, most sweetest fruit in the Torah, and smells like Gan Eden, which is pretty special. And, you know, I guess when you walk through an apple orchard, it's one of those fruits that when you're walking through the trees, you smell the fruit itself, which is really beautiful. So there you go. There's our apple story. I recently learned this, and I didn't know there was that tie-in with Gan Eden, so I thought that was really special. And now I'm going to definitely look at my apples and honey in a different way. So I thought that was pretty cool. All right, so we're going to put together the apple crumb cake. So there are 3.5 layers to this crumb cake. Sounds a little scary, but it's a really easy recipe. Just the 3.5 sounds like a lot of layers. So we have our cake layer, which I mixed together. We have our apples, which are all cut up on my cutting board right here. We have this crumb layer, and then also a little bit of cinnamon and sugar in this little cup mixed together. So what we're first going to do is we're going to pour the cake layer into a 9-inch pan. The recipe calls for a 10-inch. I only had a 9-inch, so hopefully this will work. So I'm just going to pour that cake batter into there and just kind of make sure that it's kind of flattened down. Sorry, I'm blocking the camera. So we're going to kind of smooth it out there. Here, let me tilt this so you guys can see it. So right now it's just a cake layer. And then the apples, I sliced pretty thinly to like little slices like that. I'm kind of just going to put it around the cake in a circular pattern, however you like. I definitely overcut way too many apples here, but I'm just gonna pile them on. So I will show you guys that in a minute. I actually left the skin on for this recipe. It says in the recipe notes that the skin adds more flavor. So we're gonna try. I generally, when I make apple pie or something, I peel it just because it's easier to eat, but we left on the skin for this one. So we'll see how it tastes. So I'm kind of just putting those out, and my toddler's definitely going to have apples for snack tomorrow because I definitely cut a lot of apples here. All right, so we have the apples kind of in like a circular layer on the top of the cake. You could see it like that. And then we have the crumb layer. So the crumb layer, definitely this is going to overflow my pan, so I'm going to put a little less than I made. The crumb layer is flour, vanilla, sugar, a little bit of melted plant butter, parve butter, So I'm kind of going to sprinkle that over. It's going to be definitely a heaping cake in this 9 by 13. So we're going to pour all those crumbs on. Actually smells really good. It's not even baked yet. All right, so we got these crumbs, a little pile of crumbs here. And then as the last thing, I'm just going to sprinkle on cinnamon and sugar on top, just so it will caramelize all the apples underneath that layer, give it that nice crunchy cinnamon flavor. So there you go, there's our cake. It's the cake layer, the apples, the crumbs. So we hope it'll taste good. I'm gonna bake it right now. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Rebbetzin Rapoport to finish us off. Thanks so much, everybody.
What a beautiful yontif. You know, the body and soul are connected. There once was a man who could not walk, but he was sitting at the wedding of his grandson, and he wanted to dance so much, and he couldn't dance. Next to him was sitting another man who could walk, but could not see. So what did they do? The man who wanted to dance at his grandson's wedding asked the blind man if he could pick him up. So the grandfather was sitting on the shoulders of the blind man who couldn't see. The grandfather told the blind man where to walk. The blind man was dancing, and so was the grandfather. Two happy people. The same is with the soul and the body. The soul cannot walk. The soul cannot talk. So it needs the body to make it walk, to help it talk. And that's why we feed the body with all this good, nourishing, healthy, kosher food. When we have a strong body, we have a strong soul. So as the Rosh Hashanah comes to a close, we make the blessing of Havdalah with a glass of wine. We all say L'chaim, wishing each other a wonderful new year, and say to God, thank you for the wonderful things you've done. Please continue to do better next year. And with that, I would like to thank my two fellow shluchas, Mushka and Sheina. Thank you for coming and joining our team. You really enlightened us, made it better, and made us shine. I also want to thank the director of our Torah Center, Rabbi Dubi Lisker, for being the man behind the scenes tonight, helping us organize this evening and making sure that everything runs smoothly. So thank you to each and every one. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for helping us celebrate the new coming year. And now we will open the mics. If anyone has any questions to any of us, we will stay here for a few more moments until Rabbi Lisker has to go to his next class. Open mics, you could unmute yourself. Thank you all. I want to wish you a healthy, happy, and prosperous new year.
I'd just like to wish everybody a Shana Tova and a healthy, happy new year.
Thank you, Susie. You've been a mainstay of our family for such a long time, probably since the first day we came to Wisconsin 36 years ago.
Yep.
Very special. I remember my father, I remember everyone. Thank God we're still here together. My best wishes to Arlene, please.
Thank you.
And everyone else, a happy, healthy, and wonderful New Year's. All the recipes are on the chat groups. If any times you have any questions, please reach out to any of us, fax, text, telephone call, or any way. But the best of all, be happy, be healthy. We love you all. Good night.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good night, Linda.
So
Thank
nice.
you. It's so
Good night,
wonderful seeing you.
Rebbetzin Faigie.